Hi, hello, good morning, and welcome to this week's serving of Mickey Waffles, a Disney podcast where we cover everything from parks, movies, and merchandise. My name is Sinead.
My name's Kate. Hi guys, how are you?
I'm good, Kate. How are you?
I'm good. You know what today is, Sinead?
Today's Tuesday.
You know what that means. Special Guest Tuesday!
And who have we got this week, Kate?
This week we have the lovely Sam.
Hi.
Yay! Hi Sam.
Hello.
How are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us via Zoom.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.
We'd like to assure everyone that the entrance of special guests does not impede the social distancing rules of 2 kilometers. Thank you.
I mean,
No,
I
it does
couldn't
not.
be further away from you guys.
You are all the way down in Cork.
Yeah. Oh, I think we're safe.
If there was ever a social distancing podcast, this is the one to come to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how are you finding life at the minute, Sam? I feel like me and Kate drone on about it every week.
Not too bad. I've got my wobbly days where I just want to go outside and see other human beings, but for the most part, it's not too bad. I live in an estate, so my mum has started a coffee club with the neighbours, like outside, sitting on the curbs
God, that's
of various
adorable.
gardens. So
Oh my
sometimes
God, I
I
love
come out
that
and wave
so
at people.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it's quite fun actually.
Oh, you're going to have
So-
RTE down there soon. I feel like every day they're just trying to find like different
Some bit of
communities that are doing
positivity.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But
So yeah, it's not been too bad. And we've got like Zoom, so I'm chatting to all my friends via that, so it's not too bad.
Good
I
stuff.
mean, I feel like Zoom just must be making a bomb at the minute because everyone's using
know.
it.
Yeah,
Crazy.
my dad's doing a training for work that he was supposed to do in person, but obviously they cancelled that. And
Yeah.
he was like, he got an email and it was like, yes, we're going to do the training these days at either this time or this time. Please let us know which one's available. And
Yeah.
he showed me an email. He was like, this hasn't said how they're doing it. I was like, I'm gonna guess Zoom. And he was like, I don't know. How does it? Keep in mind, he's a highly trained electrician. I'm like, and so last night we had to have a fake family Zoom call so that he could figure out
Oh.
how Zoom worked. And
Oh,
so I
no.
had it
So
on my
cute.
phone and he had it on his laptop and he was like, okay, how do I add everyone? And he like gave it like, so you can like name Zoom chats. And he was like, okay, I'll call this one family test. And he was like, okay, and I'll do it at 10 o'clock. He was like, oh, but it's not 10 o'clock yet. I was like, you can do whatever, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
In
bless him.
defense, I will say my dad asked me how to set it up for like his business, and I was like, I genuinely don't know, because anytime someone's called me, it's always been they've called me or given me a password. I'm like, I don't know how you set it up. Everyone does it for me.
Yeah, that's what I said to him. I was like, you don't need to worry about it. I was like, they'll send you a link or they'll send you a code. Like,
Yeah.
you're not hosting a meeting, they are. He was like,
Yeah.
but I don't know how it works. And I was like, okay. So we had to learn the backwards and frontwards and the inside and the outside and everything to do with Zoom, just so he could receive a call.
Oh, that's nice though. Good
I
effort.
mean-
Very committed.
Does the Priffits do nothing by halves?
Absolutely not.
It's like the last Disney Pals drinks where I learned how to do backgrounds.
Oh, yeah.
At your age!
I know, I'm a disappointment to my age group. I really am.
Oh, dear.
No, technology doesn't bode well with me.
Yeah. But I mean, I think everyone's kind of gotten around to it. I feel like most people have succumbed to the Zoom call / the Zoom quiz, which seems to be everyone's favorite thing at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag
Love a
make
good
you up a
quiz.
Zoom quiz this Friday. Don't miss it.
Yeah. Pajama themed this time.
I have it all done already. None of it's being done Thursday evening, Friday morning. It's all done. The PowerPoint's done. The questions are done. The animations are in the PowerPoint. I'm so ahead of myself. What am I going to do for the next 2 days? Not a clue.
I have to update my
That's exciting.
spreadsheet.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Is it the movie night quiz like you were talking about last podcast?
Yeah, we're going to do movies. So there's like rounds based on like Pixar and then princesses and then like animals and sidekicks and that kind of stuff.
Great. I'll study up, so.
I was
Yeah,
about to say, I was
those-
like, Sam proceeds to go study now.
I was like
Just a few movies.
the 3 broadest categories ever. Princesses, animals.
Yeah.
I mean, that covers pretty much every
Every-
movie. Is there any Disney movie that doesn't have an animal? Probably not.
No, I'd say. Oh, we'll be here for a while if we do this game.
God, I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Let's not play that game. No, because most of them either have some form of like animal or a sidekick or like a pet or something. Like even Toy Story has dogs in it. Like
Baymax has the cat. Well, it's not Baymax's cat, but
you see what I mean? Like there's so many movies that have so many animals.
That's gotta like play on my mind now.
We're gonna go and watch
I'll try not to dwell on it though. Yeah, I'll try not to dwell on it though. So, Kate, have we any news?
Yeah, we do. It's great news. Has everyone not heard? Rise of Skywalker is going to Disney Plus. 4th of May. May the 4th.
May the 4th be with you all.
Duh, who's not heard?
So yeah, globally Disney are releasing Rise of Skywalker onto Disney Plus. I didn't think we were going to get Rise of Skywalker this soon.
No, to be honest, I didn't think we were going to get it the same date as the US. I'm pleasantly surprised that they've decided to release them both on May the 4th. I would say that the whole COVID-19 coronavirus malarkey has slightly something to do with it. That they're like, let's give the people some hope.
Our new hope?
What? I really wanted you to pick that one. I was like, but yeah, it's quite exciting. So it means that everyone gets to have a full 9-movie back-to-back marathon on May 4th, thanks to Disney Plus.
I won't lie, I'm kind of tempted.
Do you know what I saw on? So there's obviously Disney Plus UK in Ireland, or Disney Plus UK, and there's the regular Disney Plus Instagram, and the Disney Plus Instagram for the US was like, we're adding this movie and this movie, like Star Wars movies. I don't think Disney Plus in America has all the Star Wars movies, but I think they're getting them on May 4th, because there was comments like, oh, finally all of the movies, and like I don't think they were making reference to Rise of Skywalker, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Some people in the comments were like, there's not 9 Star Wars movies, there's 6. Like not counting like the 3 newest ones. They were like, there's only 6, not 9.
I mean, I'd rather count the 3 recent ones than the 3 middle ones.
Yeah, that's very true.
Timeline of when they got released.
Yeah, that's fair.
Give me 4 to 9 and I'll be happy.
Yeah. Are you a big Star Wars fan, Sam?
I've never seen a Star Wars film.
Wow.
Sam.
No Descendants, no Star Wars.
I know. Also no Marvel, I don't think.
You're missing literally half of the company.
I know. I did go to
what the heck?
The Guardians of the Galaxy. I saw
the first one?
Yeah. Okay.
I presume so.
Oh dear.
Given that I didn't know there was 2. So I'll go for the first one. But no, I really want to do that that challenge. I don't think it's a challenge, but I've seen on Instagram people are putting up the like correct order for the movies.
Oh, like timeline order.
Yeah. I think that could be fun to try them out, because I just didn't give them a chance really.
I think the timeline one would be really interesting if you'd literally never watched any Marvel movies ever. Because
when I went to Paris, I have a friend who anytime I'm in Paris is like, oh, give us Marvel content. And then in one of my live shows, I proceeded to talk about Star Wars for a half an hour because I presumed that was Marvel.
Oh my god!
Oh dear!
Just presumed they were all in the same category, so that was fun.
Oh dear!
Because if you watched it, I just feel like if you watched them timeline, it'd be really interesting, because you'd see Captain Marvel like first or second, but then you wouldn't see her again until literally the very end.
Yeah, true, actually.
Oh.
But Captain Marvel was only made a couple of years ago, so like quality wise it would be really confusing, but timeline wise it makes perfect sense.
Do you think that's a good way to watch them, or do you think just watch them in the order they were released?
I quite like watching them the order they were released.
Yeah, I don't think it makes that much of a difference, if I'm being completely honest. Like, it didn't massively, like, I wasn't a big comic book nerd when I started watching them, and it didn't impact my enjoyment of them, because I actually watched Avengers Assemble first and then went back and watched the other ones after.
Yeah.
So
if
I don't think it really
anything
matters.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is that if you watch them in the order they were released rather than the timeline order, like the jokes from the previous movies are often put into the next movies.
They feed into each other.
But if you watch them in timeline order,
that won't make sense.
They won't make any sense. Like, it won't ruin the movie. You just won't catch the jokes.
Fair.
Yeah.
I suppose I just liked that idea, because otherwise I have no idea where to start with them. Or in what sense that they were released or anything. I could look it up. I could Google it.
Wikipedia will be a friend.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good idea.
yeah, I think I'd say watch them in the order they were released, and then if you wanted to rewatch them in about 2 years' time, then you could do them
I've
in
seen a
timeline.
Spider-Man one as well, but I don't know.
Spider-Man. And Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man.
Like
I think she lives down the road.
like an MCU Spider-Man, or like the other Spider-Mans with like Tobey Maguire. I shouldn't have asked that question. I'm sorry.
No idea. No idea.
Okay.
Do you think you would prefer Star Wars or Marvel more? I'm intrigued now.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I've been in Paris and seen the like march of the stormtroopers, they scare me when they walk around, and I don't know if they're good or bad.
Oh my god. Never been on Star Tours?
No.
What?
You've been to Disney Paris how many times? You've never been on Star Tours?
This is as bad as when I found out you'd never been on Phantom Manor because you thought it was a roller coaster.
I'm the worst guest you could have possibly had on.
Oh,
well, no, because the thing you're going to talk about, you know loads about. If we brought you on to talk about Marvel or Star Wars, then we'd be having issues.
Yeah, I'll come on when you're talking about the new Hotel New York, when that's changed. I'll come on and give a review.
Sam's like, yeah, the Star Wars characters were great.
How come you've never gone on Star Tours?
Darth Vader was downstairs. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, they're the only characters I've like never met in the parks as well, because I just don't know what I'd say to them.
Why have you never gone on Star Tours?
Because I've never seen Star Wars, so
But it's a great ride. You don't need to know what Star Wars is.
Absolutely don't need to have seen it.
Really?
I mean, most of the time it's in French anyways, and you can't understand what they're saying, but it's still fun.
Yeah, unless
is that the one that like shoots really fast in Discoveryland?
That's Hyperspace Mountain. That is a roller coaster. No, Star Tours is over like behind Cafe Hyperion, and it's a simulator ride.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, see, I really wish I had.
You only ever see like half of the park when you go.
Yeah, what do you do?
See, I do a lot of character interactions. I do mostly meet and greets, and then typically, because I've got one of these, I normally do baby rides. Like the storybook boats that you don't like.
Excuse me, I love the little boats.
We like them. They're just scary to get on and off.
To get on.
Yeah.
But the actual
boat ride is lovely.
Love it. Oh no, you need to go experience Star Tours just as much as you need to go experience Phantom Manor.
Do you go into Discoveryland ever?
The Buzz Lightyear ride, I love that one.
Literally the first ride.
And really around the corner there used to be a show, I think it's still there, Mickey's Philharmonic Magic. That one. I've gone there.
Beautiful.
Delightful.
Oh my god.
I've also been on Autopia. No, Autopia and Orbitron.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
Okay, so the two rides you haven't been on are Star Tours and Space Mountain.
Ah, see?
The last time me and Kate went to Philharmagic, there was a woman in front of us that I don't know if she was like hammer drunk or if she just had really never experienced 3D before, because she had her glasses on, and like when the things first start coming flying at you, she was like, whoa, and was like flopping around in her seat like she had never experienced this, and she was trying to video on her phone, and obviously it's not going to work because it's 3D.
No.
So then she started holding the glasses over her phone to see if it would make her phone 3D. And me and Kate were just like,
that's
what
absolutely something I would do.
happening?
I was in absolute fits the first time it came out, but she was literally like, I can only, like, because this is a visual medium, I can only explain it as that scene in The Matrix where Neo is like dodging the bullets, and he's like, whoa. It was literally as dramatic as that.
That is so good.
I don't know if she'd like had one too many champagnes on Main Street, or if she was
I really hope that was the reason why, because it was just, but her and her friend were having absolute fits of laughter throughout the entire thing.
They were having a great time.
So I don't even think they knew where they were. I think they sat down and were like, what? Where did these glasses come from?
I always have a fear in the Ratatouille ride that when you like take off the glasses and pop them in the like bucket on the exit, I've always got a fear that I've like also taken my own glasses with them, and I have to like double check my face to make sure I still have my glasses on.
Oh,
That is the
brilliant.
exact kind of thing Amy would do.
Oh yeah, no. 100%.
She'd come off and she'd be like, where are my glasses?
Yeah, I've done that. I've been like, oh my God,
100%.
where are my glasses? And
$100.
anyone I've been with has been like, you are wearing them. And I'm like, okay, that's
Well,
fine.
I will warn you, Star Tours does also require 3D glasses. So
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You'll
See,
have
it's
to-
very difficult to enjoy a 3D ride when you've already got glasses.
Yeah,
So
I'd
it's a
imagine.
bit more difficult.
But Star Tours throws you around. It's grand.
it's so fun. Not in like an aggressive form.
Okay.
No. Not like Phantom Manor with all them drops.
I was
Honestly.
convinced there was a drop in Phantom Manor. I don't know
Just,
why.
it's just so tall.
No, the whole ride takes place underground.
Yeah, literally.
The whole ride is underground.
Mad.
There you go. Learn something new every day.
That whole building's just a facade. Not even real. Not even in it.
Whoa, that's actually mad. I did presume you went upstairs. Do you
No,
not go up the
not at all.
stairs?
No.
No.
You go down in a lift.
No, mad. I'm actually so impressed. Oh,
Oh, bless
there's
you.
a whole house and you don't even see it.
There you go.
Mad.
Crazy.
There you go. So yeah,
Oh,
Okay, let's
Bring
move
it
on
back
from other
to
things
Rise
Sam
of Skywalker going on
hasn't
Disney
watched
Plus.
or hasn't been on.
So, if anyone is looking for something specific to watch on May the 4th, Rise of Skywalker will be available along with all other Star Wars movies on Disney Plus.
Yeah, give it a marathon. Give it a watch-a-thon.
woo.
I'm actually really tempted.
I might just watch like the 3 new ones, like those ones back to back.
Honestly, I'll just be crying all day.
I just don't think I could do all of them. 'Cause that'd be long. They're long movies.
I might watch the middle 3 because in the run up to the Rise of Skywalker, me and Breffney watched Force, Last Jedi, and then went to go see Rise of Skywalker. So maybe
So you don't need to.
maybe
do that
I'll
again.
do, but I still want to watch Rise of Skywalker. So maybe I'll do the middle 3 and then Rise. Who knows?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's the wild time.
Any other news?
I don't think so. It's been pretty quiet. What I would recommend people do though is what used to be the Diz After Dark and is now Disney Parks and Beyond. This week they had Pete Werner of the Diz fame on as a guest, and he was kind of discussing basically what he's heard as the owner of a travel agent for predominantly Disney products. And his kind of understanding is that it seems to be that June 1st is like a hard date for Disney World. And unless it's astronomically unsafe for them to open, that pretty much they're going to open on June 1st.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Now, what he's hearing is that it'll just be people that are staying on site and annual pass holders. Like, if you're staying off site, you won't be allowed in. But it's really interesting because obviously, like, Pete, if anybody doesn't know, has ran one of the biggest Disney World fan sites for the last, like, 20 years and owns a travel company. So
He knows
if-
everything.
yeah, he's like the mecca of like Disney World and mostly Disneyland, like not Disneyland Paris, but Disneyland California knowledge. So it's interesting seeing his take and what he think could be options. So would recommend going and giving that episode a listen because it's very interesting.
That's just gas because I don't even think our whole country is going to be opened by June 1st, let alone like shopping centres
No, I don't
or
think
a
so.
massive theme park.
I don't.
ED92 had a survey up the other day about when the park does reopen, potential security measures people would want. Did you guys see the survey at all?
No.
Tell us about it.
It was really interesting because I felt quite sad like looking through it because it just seems to take away the magic, the measures they're thinking of. Like they were saying, you know, more virtual queues as opposed to so more line Bertie essentially as opposed to like regular type queues. And that you would have to wear like masks and gloves, that like temperature checks would be compulsory, like no like going near characters, which I think would be bizarre. I think why even have them out if that's the case?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I love, like, I know I shouldn't, but I really love reading like comments on Instagram and Facebook of people because like they're just so funny and they're so crazy and they just go so wildly outrageous. But
Honestly.
sometimes like there are some like slightly heartbreaking ones that are like they were mostly to do with Disney World, not Disneyland Paris. But there was this mother and she was like, I don't think she was mad at Disney. I just think she was like, there's no point in bringing my kids to Disney World if they can't hug Mickey Mouse, because they will be so confused and they will get so upset. And she was like, they went 2 years ago and they met him and they could hug him and hold his hand and all this sort of stuff. And she was like, but if I bring them and tell them they can't do any of that anymore, they're going to be so confused and they're not going to understand why. And she was like, and they're not old enough to understand the situation. She was like, so personally, no, I'll just wait. She's like, but I mean, if you just want to go on rides, I guess go for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm old enough. I'm 23.
Hey.
And throwback. And it would still break my heart if they were like, no, don't come near the characters. You know
what I mean? Like, you fully understand it and you can't argue it in any way. But you're also just kind of like, oh, it's kind of sad. And then, like, you could also then put up the argument to be like, what exactly am I paying for if half of the entertainment usually offered isn't there anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
it was interesting because, like, Pete was saying that one of the things he thinks could come into place is manual testing, or not manual, mandatory testing for people, because there are tests being created that you get the results within 15 minutes. So he anticipates that could potentially be a thing, that maybe when you check into your resort or something like that, that you get tested before you can go anywhere else. And apparently he said that on one of the Diz's like weekly shows, and all these Americans were freaking out, being like, that's violating my constitutional rights and blah blah, all this usual crap that they go on with. And he was just like, it's literally nothing to do with your constitutional rights. If you want to go on to private property, you follow what they say. If you don't want to be tested, you don't go onto that private property. It's very simple.
Yeah, like people just, Americans, let's not get into it. We could be here all day.
Yeah. Was it UK that was saying that there might be like a vaccine that you would have like a stamp on your passport to say, were you saying that in one podcast, or was that in the chat?
I could have. Who knows?
I can't remember.
I don't know what I did yesterday, let alone what I said.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I think like something to indicate on your passport that you've been vaccinated could be.
Yeah, like definitely a document to say, like when a vaccination comes out, definitely a document to say that you've been vaccinated, because then once that happens, like that's so much easier. It's like, can please present, like 5 days before your arrival, can you please present us with your, or however many days, or when you book or whatever, confirm that you have your vaccination. But I think on-site testing, if they can do it quick enough, is perfect. Like, it's just because if you're only allowing people who are staying on site and pass holders, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I know, sorry, just one last thing about it is that I know that there was that thing on Instagram of the roller coaster that you could only sit on every other seat.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, which is also brilliant, because I was saying it to Ed and he was like, why would they open? He was like, yeah, that's all well and good, but what when you're sat next to a stranger on Space Mountain? And I was like, but you won't be.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things they did when I was there, because I was there the last week, literally up until the day before they closed. They had shut all the single rider queues so that you weren't being put
next to someone you didn't know.
Next to someone you didn't know, exactly.
Oh, it's just all so interesting, isn't it? There's just so much change. There's so much excitement.
It'll
is
be
fascinating
interesting to see what the parks look like when they do start to open, because obviously Disney have enough control in America that they can kind of, and especially in Florida, like Disney have a major influence over the Florida government. So I mean, they can kind of open if they want to open, but I don't think they'll get away with that in Paris.
Absolutely not, because the French government's like,
Yeah. The latest thing I read from the French government was gatherings of more than 5,000 were banned until September. So they were talking about waiting for official confirmation on Disney about whether they could do a partial opening.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's fair.
And limit the numbers, obviously.
See, because then when you do that, surely you can only let the French public in. Surely you can't have people flying over to stay on site or to stay off site in a partner hotel.
I presume so.
And then try and get in the morning and then be like, there's 150 people here. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah. There'd have to be some sort of system in place, yeah.
Our park is so tiny. This is all we can hold.
Yeah.
Overflow goes to studios and just stands there in little like corrals.
Oh.
Just one last thing I want to mention. It's not really news based, but I just thought it was interesting. Our friend Meg, who's on Instagram, who was working on the cruises, she is still quarantined on the cruise. She has still not come home. She's on day like 56 or something.
She's still getting her weekly trips to Castaway Key.
Yeah, so she's still getting to go to Castaway Key. I think they're also like, if they go to Castaway Key, they have to like work sometimes while on it. I think they have to work like a short shift or something. But like, who cares? Like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, you're literally, you're working for cast, or like you're all working for each other. So, but yeah. And she put up, bless her. I feel so sorry for her. Like, I'm sure she's having like the best time she could. Like, it's one of the best quarantine. But like, she shared an article on her Facebook, and she was like, there was a street party in Donamead or something the other day, and people were definitely not 2 meters away from each, 6 meters.
I saw that.
And she was like, this is the reason I can't get off this ship. And I was like, oh, Meg. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But yeah, in case anyone's wondering, Disney cruise ships are still quarantining if they were on the cruise, because I have another cast member I used to work with, and she was working on the Princess cruises, and she came home about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But she had been quarantining on the ship, but then they got to go home.
I think it's because flights are so scarce at the minute from the States, because the States don't want anybody flying anywhere. I mean, I don't think any countries want anybody flying anywhere. So, and they can't take them off the ship because they can't risk any of them getting it and potentially then bringing it onto the ship. And also, they don't have visas to be in America. They have visas to be on sea. So they're kind of just sitting ducks.
It's so interesting. Like, I feel for them all, but it's so interesting to like watch how everybody is dealing with it in their own particular ways. It's just, what a time.
You would know every inch of the ship.
Yeah, you'd be great for a quiz about a ship, wouldn't you?
Hey.
On starboard level 5E, what colour is the left corner of the carb? It's purple. It's purple.
Oh dear. Right, well, if that's everything we have that's vaguely news related, should we get on to the main thing that we plan to talk about?
So vaguely news related. Let's get on to the reason why Sam's here.
Just to talk about Avengers.
Yeah.
Evidently.
Avengers, you know those ones with the white soldier things? You know them. So Sam is with us today to talk to us about the Orange Pass. And hopefully maybe a tiny bit about the Green Pass and maybe the difference that you can get in Disneyland Paris. We know we had an episode about this ages ago, but we could literally only give you what information Disneyland Paris provides on their website, because myself and Sinead have never had to gain access to one or use one for any reason. So we did our best, but we knew that wasn't quite enough. And we really wanted to, we love the episodes where we're able to like help you guys plan for things and help you guys understand things more. So that's why you've had Sam on.
Yay.
So hopefully Sam's going to be able to clear up a couple of questions that you may have about the Orange Pass and the Green Pass.
Sure. I'll do my best. Sorry.
Sounds like, oh, me? Am I here? What?
Sorry.
And we'll be sure to link Sam's Instagram down below as well, so that it'll be in the show notes. So if you do have any other questions, you can reach out directly. Absolutely. So Orange Pass, what is it? What's your experience with it?
So basically the first time that I was going to Disneyland Paris was in 2017. I was going with my mum. And my mum has a spinal injury. So she's basically got like some discs in her neck that are digging into spinal fluid. There's like medical jargon for all that. But essentially it means that her ability to walk or stand for long periods of time would be quite limited. And one of the things she was quite concerned about during all this was that she would be holding me back because it was our first time in the parks. And we had kind of a limited amount of days there. So I started researching what was available for people with illnesses and injuries over there. And so I was told to apply for a Green Pass. Now, when we actually got over there, we were given an Orange Pass. And then for the last 2 trips that I've been on this year, I myself was given an orange pass for an injury that I have. So that would be like my base level experience with orange passes in particular, and the various trips I've had them on. But there are 2 types. Like I said, there's the green pass, which is known as also a priority pass. So that would be for like people who are registered as disabled. So if you could bring like a blue badge with you to prove that. And then the orange pass is known as an easy access card or a temporary illness card. So you get that for something like a temporary illness or an injury. So like if you've like just broken your leg the week before, that would be something that they would be able to help you with. Yeah, so that's like the main differences between the 2 of them. Did I make that clear enough?
No,
okay,
makes perfect sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was like, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, makes total sense.
Fair enough.
So how do you go about getting one? So if you do need an orange pass or a green pass, how do you go about it?
So you can only get them when you actually arrive. You can't get them like before your trip or anything. So if you were staying in an on-site hotel, you can get one at reception. I actually didn't know this. This is something new they brought in as of last year. I've always gotten mine from City Hall or guest relations in the studio, and I usually do it pretty much first thing when I arrive. So all you need to do if you have a temporary illness is a letter from your doctor to just show that to the cast member in City Hall. Oh, you can also get them at the Donald desk as well outside the parks. And then they'll kind of just make sure that they're giving you the correct pass. They might ask you a few questions, but I've never found them too intrusive question-wise. They've always been very helpful with it. Like I've never felt grilled by them.
That's good.
Yeah,
Madam, can we see your leg, please?
Make sure it is in a cast.
Can you really not bend it? Okay.
Yeah, and I know. Imagine you need to do like a course.
that's just the kind of thing I'd imagine. Like DLP is so like out there. I imagine they'd be like, yes, please enter this room while our on-site doctor ensures that your letter is consistent with what you said.
Sure.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
No worries. Yeah, with the doctor's letter, it does have to be on headed paper. It has to be signed and stamped by a doctor. And it would have to basically just give a brief reason of what it is that's limiting your ability and what it's limiting your ability to do. And it also has to be dated within 3 months. So if you've been to the park like last year and you got a pass, you can't use the same letter. You're going to need a newer version. The French have different documentation requirements, but that's all listed on their website, what they would need to bring as well. I don't know if you have French listeners.
Oh, like if you are French?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
if you don't need to worry about
interesting.
Yeah, there is on the
That's
website. It would say different. I suppose because they've different forms of blue badges and things that we would have.
Oh, right. Okay, gotcha.
That sort of thing. When you are given your pass, then it looks like this. I know this isn't a visual medium, but I can take pictures and give them to you. But
it's a pass that's orange.
It's a pass that's orange. And basically the information that goes on it is the cast member who signed off on you getting this pass, your name, and how long it's valid for. So basically it's valid for however long your trip is, so the duration of your stay.
Okay.
And then if you are going as a family, you're allowed up to 4 helpers. So they'll put a little stamp to say however many helpers you're entitled to. That 4 helpers is for going on rides or character meets or shows. It's not for shows. That's what I meant to say. It's not for shows or parades or illuminations. You're only allowed up to 2 people at that case. That also is only for a green pass though, because orange pass doesn't entitle you to any of the disability viewing areas for any shows.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And then they'll also just tick what it is that is giving you this. So like mine was ticked for guests with a debilitating illness or temporary medical condition.
There we go, Kate. We always ask what that means.
Like, what's a debilitating illness?
Yeah, just that it would limit like everything, that your ability to do things in the parks. So it does say that it doesn't give you priorities in queues. So essentially what you would do is it's almost like a line bertie in the sense that you go up and you get given a time to come back. So you're not put like straight to the front of the queue or anything. the time that you are given to come back is usually however long the current queue is. So if the queue is currently at 40 minutes, so basically you're kind of holding your place like you've done your queue time.
Yeah.
You were just able to sit on the nearest bench while it was happening.
Okay.
And then when you come back, you just show it and they'll sign it off. Once they've signed it off, you can get another slot, but you can only retain one at a time on an Orange Pass. I'm not quite sure how that works on a Green Pass, because the Green Pass doesn't have any slots like mine. My pass, when you open it, would have the time frames to come back.
Right,
a Green Pass is just that front part. So I'm pretty sure if they're giving you times to come back, they give you individual little slips of paper.
Right, okay.
Makes sense.
I think the idea with the Green Pass, because just from literally watching people do it, like I think the idea with the Green Pass is because it's a priority pass, that if they can put you to the front of the queue, they will.
Yes. Yeah.
So that I'd say that's why. And then if it's really like, sorry, this queue's 2 hours, then they'd have to give you. But like, I think their idea is that where possible, they will put you to the front of the queue. So like, they don't want to have to write down a bunch of crap on your piece of paper.
No, I think those slips are exactly for the extraordinary circumstance that they can't for some reason put you to the front of the queue.
Yeah.
Because I have seen them with those little pieces of paper at like meet and greets to give out, but they rarely do. I've only seen like 1 or 2 times where they actually use them.
Okay, cool.
What else did I have in my notes? Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh no, go on. If you have something else to say, go on.
No, I was just going to check my notes and see did I miss anything.
I was just going to ask, do you personally think that it's a good system for like people with temporary illnesses or injuries or something like that? Or is there anything like with the system that you think could be improved to make it easier on like everyone, kind of like cast and guests?
Yeah, I asked this, I asked my mum about this as well when I told her I was going to be chatting about these, because obviously initially with her injury, I was most concerned about her, and I asked what she thought of it. And for her, it was an insane help. Like, I probably could have done without. My injury isn't as debilitating as hers would be. So like I could have managed. It was a massive help to me. And I was definitely able to get more done than I would have been able to do without the pass. But for my mum, she wouldn't have lasted. She just wouldn't have been able to walk home at the end of the night. And we always stay on site, so we're fairly close. So like an hour in the park for her is a lot of standing time. So without the pass, definitely she wouldn't have been able to go on anything or see anything. So it was really, really helpful. The only thing that she would have liked would have been access to viewing areas, so that we didn't have to stand and wait for the parades as long as we did, or different shows. In terms of improving it, the only negative experience we had with it was we were going to see Mickey and the Magician in the studios. And we went up early and we asked, is there a system with this?
Hey, what's the crack?
Yeah, because I had heard that people queued for like 40 minutes before it would even open, and I was going, oh my god. So I asked, and they said that basically about a half an hour before showtime, go back, show your pass, you get put into a little separate queue.
Okay.
Now it's not a separate queue, more of a pen that they just shove everyone into.
Right. Okay.
But which is fine. There's no seats, which wasn't great, because I thought the ratio of people who needed the seats to people who could stand was, they could have done with a couple of more seats. Because I gave up my seat pretty quickly, but Mum also gave up hers, and I was going,
that's not the point here.
Yeah, I was like, no, sit down. At one point, and we still waited about obviously the 30 minutes, and then they opened the doors to the pen area first. But what I found then is, because there was no system or there was no cast member, it was a free-for-all, and people were quite rude. They weren't letting
Isn't that Paris guests? What?
Because I found the people with wheelchairs were being pushed in front of everyone, and people just weren't willing to step back and let them just go through first, and then we'd all go through. So if there was a system in place where you could kind of divide that, or at least have a cast member standing there to be like, we're going to take in people with wheelchairs first, or something along that lines, because I think the free-for-all just didn't work, and it was quite negative because people were shouting at each other, and just wasn't a very nice experience at that point. But that is the only negative experience I've had with the pass, I have to say.
Just out of interest, did you ever try to go to the Frozen show in Animation Celebration with your card?
I didn't, and the reason for that is I get a bit, I'm not embarrassed, but sometimes I don't like using the pass all the time, because if I feel
I think you're going to say
enabled,
embarrassed by liking Frozen.
Oh no.
I just saw your...
I don't want to talk about it, Kate.
No, I've never been to that show.
Sorry, what's Frozen? Is that what the stormtroopers? I'm not aware.
They're white, snow, white. What?
No. I just don't like to. If I feel well and able, and I feel like I'm able to stand in a queue, I like to stand in the queue. I don't like to just be like, oh, well, see you later, guys. I'm gonna go sneak off to the front here. So with the Frozen show, I just went to the earliest showing.
Great.
But I will say I could see the seated area.
Yeah.
And I could feel that it was the same sort of free-for-all experience, because people were just like, let's rush ahead of everyone.
Yeah, the only reason I say it is because when me and Ed went, it was so unorganized, because it's more obvious because you're in that really small room to begin with. Yeah. And it was literally like anyone who had a green and orange pass was literally shoved against the wall. Yeah. And then there wasn't even any seats for them to wait.
There. Yeah, I was going to say there's no seats there either.
I was like, what is the goddamn point?
Makes no sense.
So they literally just have everyone pushed up against the wall, and then there's cast members making sure there's a gap between people with green and orange passes and everyone else. But it means that like everyone's still quite tight, but like they don't explain what's going on. No. But like at one point I wanted to take a picture of a poster that was on the wall where all the green and orange pass were standing. And so I just broke through everyone. I was like, sorry, I'm just going to take a picture. Like, I'll be straight back. Like, but like all the cast members watched me do it and no one said anything. Yeah. Like, no one came up to me and was like, sorry. Like, I was stood there for ages.
It's a different area.
And like, I was stood there for ages and the doors even opened and the green and orange pass went in. Like, I could have just walked in behind them. Like, there was I was like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Nothing makes sense. But then the thing, I don't know if they fixed it now, because when I went, the show was still really new. It was like opening week, or it was 2 weeks. It was only open for like 2 weeks. And when all the green and orange pass went in, like not everyone had even sat down, and the show had already started. Yeah, it's like they didn't give people, like, just with the whole show in general, they didn't wait until everybody was inside the section for the show to start. But I thought it was really stupid that they didn't even let people who needed to sit down first.
Yeah,
because then
get themselves settled.
Yeah, but then the problem was that the seats are obviously over on the left and over on the right, or just on the right. But then the doors are all the way on the left to get to the next room. So you have to give people who obviously take longer to get from one place to another, and then literally they've not even gotten into the room, and then Anna's on the stage talking to Sven, and you're like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, the Frozen show is problematic for many reasons, but I just found that really stupid when I was standing in there, that there was I don't understand why they didn't put seats anyway and just run a couple more shows. Because the free-for-all of tall people to the front, small people, like, there was no organization of any of that.
And people put their babies on, like, the rails, and you're like, okay, well, now I can't see.
But I definitely think one thing I noticed while I was in there was the doors. I was going, well, this makes no sense, because
like, nobody's waiting or anything like that.
They're going to need more time to get over there, because it's going to take wheelchairs, like, because they were quite narrow as well, the sections to, like, navigate.
Yeah. So I wonder is like their main fall down, like, shows.
I think so, because that is the only negative experience pass-wise I've had, was it when it came to Mickey and the Magician. I just think if they could come up with some sort of queue system for that, or even a ticketed system,
or even just cast members being there.
Yeah, I mean, at a basic level, if they just got someone to stand there. And but it would just be a matter of saying, okay, we're just going to take in people with wheelchairs first, and then everyone else can follow on afterwards, just to make it some sort of organized system would be a little bit better.
Dear DLP, please be more organized. Thank you, everyone.
And that's on a whole. I feel like that's not even just related to this. Yeah. Oh, DLP. But in general, I have to say the system is really, really good. Like, people are very understanding about the system. I feel like I've read about people having negative experiences with people not understanding why they can't skip the queue or stuff. In general, I've not found that. I know my mum was quite embarrassed getting to skip some. See, it's not skipping because you've done your queue, but
yeah.
I feel like people don't know you've done your queue.
I feel like that's a very Irish thing. Like I feel like Irish people with passes would be like, oh Jesus, no.
Irish guilt.
Sorry about that. No. Yeah.
We'll wait in the queue, it's fine. Mary, you've only one leg. It's fine. We'll stand in the queue. But I feel like
a true Irish guilt.
But I feel like a lot of other European countries would be like, nah, it's my right.
Potentially. I also do believe in the good Disney karma as well, in the sense that any trip I've gone on where I didn't have a pass, it seemed to be that every time I got to the front of a queue, they were like, do you mind if we just let this person with a green pass? And I was like, yeah, no bother. Like, literally not a problem. It'll take 2 more minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't take a long time. Meet and greets are very short, typically. So, like, it was never a problem. And I think I've always had really good experiences based on that then, you know. No one's ever given me kind of looks or something. But it is hard because the one thing my mum had said was that because my mum doesn't look ill or disabled, she can sometimes feel like she's being a bit saucy taking a card, you know. When she absolutely does need one. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And like that, she's a bit like me. If she was feeling well and able, we just queued. If the queue was short, we would just queue. But we definitely used it a lot more when I was with mum than I would on my own, because when I was on my own, if the queue was like less than 30-45 minutes, I just queued. It wasn't a big deal for me, because in general it's just if I stand for a very long period of time. So you can see, like, out of the gazillion slots you have, I use 6 in my whole 4 days. So, you know, but they are, like, when you need it, it's great. And it's the same system for rides. So if you're going on a ride, you'll get a time to come back that is the current queue. So if you're like going on Dumbo, and Dumbo's like up to 30 minutes, you can be waiting up to 30 minutes in your
and when your time slot is up and it's your time to go back, do you go back via the exit or do you go back via the fast pass entrance? What way does it work?
So for the most part, you're going back through the exit, unless the only one I know about that's different is the storyboats. Because the exit of that is the like stairs and the rotating platform. No, there is a separate little land. But in general, yes, you go through the exit of things. What you would do is, like, when it is your time, just go back up to the cast member and they'll cross it off, and then they'll guide you anyway. So there's absolutely no chance of you getting lost. And then typically what it is they'll let everyone exit. And then, you know how we'd say for pirates, for example, everyone enters on one side, exits on the other. You're entering on that side, essentially. So they'll let everyone off, you'll get on, and then they'll open the general entrance gates as well.
Okay, makes sense.
So that would be it. And then with characters, it would be at the kind of by the umbrellas at the rope. There's usually a little flag that has a little wheelchair symbol on it. And if you go stand there, someone will eventually turn around, realize someone is standing there. They'll come up to you. You just ask for a slot, they'll write it down, and then that's where you come back to as well. And they'll tick it. Usually you'll wait about 5 minutes just to let maybe 1 or 2 others go, and then they'll let you in, is how that tends to work.
And with rides and stuff, I assume there's no issue with using the standard fast pass that's available as well.
Yeah, no, you can use the exact. So, like, for example, I never got a slot for Peter Pan's flight because I could just use a fast pass, and that was cutting the queue anyway. So you can get your general fast pass. If the fast pass section has closed off, you can then ask for a normal slot or for an easy card slot, because I did that with the Ratatouille ride, because they'd also closed the single rider the time I was there.
Oh, right.
So the queue had gone up to something like 55 minutes. And I was going, there's no way I'm going to be able to stand 55 minutes. This is like at the end of the day as well. I was going, oh no, I'm so tired.
I don't think I have ever queued longer than 5 minutes for Ratatouille, because either
I
I get a
haven't.
fast pass or a single rider, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's because if you've been on it, because if you've been on it once with your friends, even if you're still as a group, you could still go single rider. Like, it doesn't matter. You're in a rat.
Yeah, like you pretty much always end up in the same rat as well.
Yeah. Chances are, yeah.
Like,
I've never queued more than.
Was it me and you that ended up sitting beside each other when we went through fast pass? Because we were with a family of 4, and the mom was like, "Oh, grand, I'll take both children. You guys know each other." So me and Kate just ended up sitting in the back with his dad.
Yeah, and he was like it was great. She was like, "Okay, yeah, cool, I'll stand," because she realized that she was like, "Oh yeah, we'll just." I was like, "Okay, that's, you don't have to, but okay."
Yeah.
But no, I think every time I've been on fast pass and Ratatouille with like other people, I only think there's one time I've been in a rat where I wasn't with someone I also knew. Like, they were usually either directly in front of me or directly behind me, but like, it doesn't matter. Like,
I usually get a rat all to myself. To be honest with you.
When do you go? What?
I've never been in a rat solo.
I don't think I think I shared once. I don't think I've ever shared, but I go really off peak times, and usually it would be like the first ride I would do in the morning or the last ride at night. So the queue is usually long. So yeah, I don't think I think I shared.
See,
once.
if I'm in studios that earlier, I'm going to Crush's Coaster. So
never been on Crush's Coaster either.
That's a
I'm not as surprised about.
Yeah. Given the subject matter of why I'm here.
That I'm not as shocked.
Yeah, no, I know. I was going to go on it, and then I asked some lovely cast members, and I asked a little group on Facebook as well. I was like, what do you think? Do you think it would be fine? And they were like, no, it's too jerky. You'll hurt yourself. I was like, okay. Because it does come down to...
I think you would probably be fine on hyperspace, purely because the restraints are so secure. Like, you go nowhere.
Yeah,
and it's not
you
like
don't really move.
Click. They are seamless. So wherever, it's not like with, I used to find with Rock and Roller Coaster, it was a little bit rockety because you were one far out, or if you pushed it down too far, you weren't breathing because it was cutting off all circulation. But it's very seamless on Hyperspace Mountain. So I'd say that one would be fine because you literally don't move about at all.
Yeah, I will say one thing: if you're unsure, you can always show your pass to a cast member and be like, "What do you think?" and explain the different type of injury, because obviously there's lots of different injuries as well. So I found that was really helpful, that they were fairly clued up on, except for I asked on Big Thunder Mountain once because I had pulled a fast pass, and then I was like, oh, I actually don't know, maybe it's too
maybe I
jerky.
shouldn't.
But I was trying to be brave. This was my trip where I was like, I'm going to be really brave and try everything that I haven't tried. So I just pulled a fast pass, and then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. So I asked, and she was like, you'll be fine. So I started walking up, and just as I was going, no, I don't trust it. I'm gonna leave. So I just gave my fast pass to someone else.
I think if you were in a car with somebody else and they could kind of act as a buffer for part of it, I'd say you'd be fine. But I wouldn't go in it by yourself, because you get a bit especially because they would put you in, you get put in the last few carts if you are going through the disability entrance, because we realised that, because it's you have to kind of step down into the regular ones, but the ones that are for green and orange pass are flat, so you don't actually go down at all, but you really kind of flop about in those if you're by yourself, because there's nothing to stop you moving.
Yeah, do you know what? Slinky Dog as well, the one that sits around. You do go a bit all over the place on that one.
You really do. You have to be strategic with where people sit.
Yeah. I did realise that, because I was like, oh, this is fine. This is a baby ride. And I was like, whoa, okay, I'm moving very fast here.
Deceivingly fun. It's like Casey Jr.
Oh, I find with Slinky Dog, you really need to jam yourselves in there so that no one moves. It's for adults, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's never happened. There was one time where I was getting on and it was completely empty, and this Spanish family came up and was like, oh, can we sit in here? I was like, okay, but then sure. But then as we turned, I was just crushing her small child, and I was like, oh, this is so awkward. Yeah, that was not great.
I just imagine if any Spanish family ever asks me anything, my answer is automatically no. It's like, no, sorry. You're going to give out to me in Spanish for something I didn't do.
Yeah. I remember a woman started like shouting at me about something in Cafe Hyperion, and I was like, I am not a cast member and I do not speak Spanish. And she just kept shouting at me in Spanish, and I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm at a loss.
Some people are just gas.
Well,
Just the Spanish. I have a question. I don't know if you've ever encountered it, but it's something that I've noticed when queuing for characters. So do you know the way you get characters who obviously have like their planned timed meet and greet spots, and they're like, they're on the maps and they're on the little thingies and they're on little signposts. But then you have like the surprise characters, if you will, that like come out and they're just there and that kind of stuff. And there's no cast member with a little stand and a book and all that sort of stuff. I've seen people, because I just don't really know how it works, but from what I've seen, people who come up with orange and green passes try to get a slot, but because it's not like a timetabled greet, they don't. Have you ever, is that how it works, or do you know? Or
that's kind of dependent on situation to situation. So that's happened to me a couple of times, that I've been walking past and I've just seen a character out, and when they don't have the ropes, typically what I do is I kind of just go up, and I kind of go up kind of holding it so they know what I'm about to ask. So I'm kind of just, I'm like, hi, just wondering, so that they can even just like do that if it's really busy, and I'll just be like, cool, see you later. That it's not a visual medium, I'm sorry.
They can just shake their head and be like, nah.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't interrupt their busy day. But sometimes if I go up, they'll say, oh, look, this queue is already closed, because they're only out for 10 minutes, or it's a real surprise. But maybe if you come back around like 2:00, and then they might be out again. Or sometimes if it's just that the queue is really long at this point and they know they don't have enough time, they'll say no. But if the queue is short enough, and I do find as well, because I'm just one person, typically they're like, yeah, you'll be like a minute. So 9 times out of 10, they'll just get you to like stand there, let the family that's currently meeting finish up, just give a pre-warning to whoever was next in queue, just be like, look, we're just going to let this girl go first, and then so it's kind of situation dependent sometimes. Sometimes if the character has just come out, chances are you'll be able to join because the queue hasn't completely filled up yet.
I just remember the one time I met Sully, a family came up and they had like 4 buggies, 6 children, 2 adults, and they were like waving they had like 3 passes and they were waving them all about, and I don't know where they were from, but literally there was 4 cast members dealing with like Sully with the cues and the pictures. All 4 cast members went over to them, to the point that when I went up to get my picture taken with, I was like, because Ed took a picture of me, but then I wanted a picture with me and Ed. And I was literally stood there and none of the cast members were paying any attention. One, I was like, I could take this guy down. I mean, I couldn't. Sully is huge.
Sully's a goner.
But you know what I mean? I was like, there's no guest safety there. I was like, nobody's watching what they're doing. Nobody's watching to make sure no one's hanging out of his arms, which definitely aren't like made of steel, like kind of thing.
God,
like, like, you know what I mean? I was like, this is terrible. But like, luckily the next guy in queue was English, and he was like, would you like a picture? I was like, please. But yeah, it took like 4 cast members for them to calm down this lady, because they were like, no, like the queue was huge, the queue was really long, and she went off on one, and I was like, oh, this is the reason people just hate everything.
I will say one of the things I've noticed is I do find the most arguments that I've seen about these passes are from people with green passes, because they just see it as a right straight off the bat. You know, that they should just go and be the first person to see everything. And like, I think you do have to have a bit of consideration that like you need a pass, and you gotta, you know, you deserve it, you've been given it for a reason, but like, you also have to understand that if the queue is 2 hours long and this character is only out for, or only supposed to be out for an hour and a half, they're already way over their time. They cannot fit more people in. Like, I will say, if anyone thinks they're going to need or thinks they're going to have a pass when they go, if you enjoy meeting characters, I would prioritize meeting characters in the morning, because they have only got a certain amount of slots. If the character is out for an hour, they might only have like 5 or 10 slots to fill, because obviously they have to keep in mind that there will be a consistent regular queue throughout the day as well. So slots for character meet and greets fill up really, really fast. But in terms of rides, they don't, because the rides are just open. So until the ride is closed, you can get your time to come back. So if you were interested in meeting characters, I would definitely prioritize meeting the characters.
Yeah, because I remember when we went in 2017 with Amy, when we met Jack and Sally, that was one of those kind of more ad hoc ones. They literally appeared out of the bushes. And people weren't forming a queue. It was literally just like a huddle around them, and then the characters would kind of pick who came next. Now I was being a little pushy. There was no way I wasn't getting to meet Jack. But there was a woman next to us who was like flinging about her green pass for her son, and like got in a full-on argument. So Jack had met a couple guests and then literally like pulled me out of the crowd. And this woman was screaming at the cast member as to why her son wasn't getting priority and why her son wasn't getting to meet Jack. And the cast member was just kind of like, it's up to the character. The character will pull who they want to pull. I have no control over this. So
that was so anxiety inducing from like, because I didn't care about meeting Jack, but I was like so stressed about Sinead meeting Jack. But then there was also I was like, Jack, just do me a solid here.
I know.
But then I was also like, I had so much respect for that cast member. So she was British, but her French was immaculate. Because I heard her talk to, like, you wouldn't know, like, if whatever, like, she was so on point, but she was so professional, but she was stern without being like not Disney. And if she just had the balance so perfect, and she got to the point where the woman went away. Like the woman wasn't there by the time Jack had picked Sinead. The woman had like left, and it was just, she handled it so well. So like, I know sometimes that like Disneyland Paris cast members aren't always the best with guest service. But like it is with like those kind of things that you really have to give it up for some cast members and be like I was watching it, I was like, man, you are great. You tell that woman.
I will say I hate those types of queues. I hate those types of meet and greets because there is no queue.
Never go to Japan. Never go to Japan.
Oh no, I've heard, because I just don't like that sort of system. I like order. But
I like a queue.
Yeah, I will say, having a pass in that sort of experience, in 2017 when I was with my mum, we were in studios and Baloo just like appeared. Wow. And everyone was like shoving their little kids to meet Baloo. And mum was like, "Go on, Declan, go on, get in, get in." My mum has no time. She's like, "Get in, go on. You deserve to meet Baloo." And I'm like, "Mum, these people are 4. Let them meet their childhood hero. It's fine. I'll stand back." And I ended up not getting to meet Baloo, which was absolutely fine, because in that sort of situation, it is a case of the character is going to pick. Like, those characters are out for like 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, like they're there and they're gone.
You are not going to be standing for a long period of time, regardless. Priority goes out the window, I think. Like, I have been in situations when I've been on my own with a pass, I like bumped into Jack Sparrow, who was just chilling.
Oh, fantastic. That's always so much fun.
It was great.
I feel like he blends into the background of the attraction, so I feel like people don't really notice he's there.
Oh, I bumped into him purely because I got lost. I was like, I was looking for something. I can't.
This already sounds so on brand. Keep going.
I was trying to. Oh, it's happened to me so many times. I was trying to.
In fairness, okay, our first trip to DLP, we spent most of that trip lost in Adventureland.
It's so confusing, to be fair.
It's
true.
I was trying to find Rafiki, I think, because I had a time to come back for Rafiki.
Oh, that's fair. Rafiki's very, like, he's hidden. He's behind a bush.
Yeah. And I couldn't remember, because I had walked past, got my slot, because I was like, oh, cool, Rafiki. And then I walked away, and then I couldn't find it to come back. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to, like, meet him or get it, like, crossed out. And then I just turned, and like Jack Sparrow was standing there, and there was like people going up being like, I want to meet Jack Sparrow. And the cast member was like, he's literally walking around. If he stops, he stops, but he might not. And there is no sort of priority line here. But I I have a tip for those situations for anyone. I always keep a autograph card and a Sharpie in like one of those little bum bags. So I usually, if I see a surprise character, take them out, be ready. Because if they see you're organized and they know it won't take like 20 minutes of like faffing about with bags and like pulling out cameras and autograph cards, they'll just be like, hey, autograph? And you be like, yes, please. And then take a selfie.
I just imagine you like seeing a character, whipping over your bum bag, getting out this piece of paper and like frisbeeing it at a character and being like, whoop.
I'm very on like point when it comes to character meet and greets. I'm so efficient.
It's the best way to be. It's how you get the most out of it. Like that's when we finally got to meet Oogie Boogie. Like we had like a game plan organized. We had like organized who was standing where, and at what stage that Kate and Ellen would run out of the picture so that they had no choice but to let me get a picture with Oogie. Like we had it down. We'd rehearsed.
Yeah, absolutely. It does pay to be efficient in the parks. But yeah, in those situations, like there is just no priority. Like, because maximum you will be standing is for 10 minutes. So I don't think, unless it's a really certain special case, that you could explain to them. But I've never seen anyone be given priority in those pop-ups where there's no queue. Pop-ups where there is a queue, yes.
Yeah, but those ones where like they're huddled. Just before we get off that subject, I just want to mention that if you do see one of those like circular huddles in a park and you do really want to meet that character, if you're there like as soon as they get out, like we always find that the biggest tip is to be persistent but polite.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're like dipping in front of children in a polite manner, but also like every time someone comes over being like hi, but if they don't pick you, be like no probs, I'll see you in a sec. Like by like the third kid they'll pick you.
Yeah. For sure.
Like, that's what we did with Scrooge.
Yeah, and like I ended up having a great time. And I was just like waiting, patient, no problems. Like I think he picked like 2 or 3 kids and then he was like hello. I was like, oh hello.
The characters really do keep an eye on politeness.
Yeah, like I think like even I do think it's a very character, like I know like certain cast members, but I feel like characters view things differently, and like they can really sense the politeness and like the eagerness from people to be like I'll just stand and I'll just wait and I'll just chill, no worries.
It goes back to like the biggest tip that we always say: don't be a dick to cast members, be nice to cast members and nice things will happen to you. That Disney karma will come right.
Absolutely. I was in the studios and I'd been tipped off because I was bounding as Mary Poppins and I'd been tipped off that she was due to appear. So they told me to like be in the studios and stand there at like 2:00. So I was like standing there trying to like film so that it looked like I wasn't like just being weird. I was like, oh yes, here's actually on my phone that's like, and this is the studios. There's the front lot, there's Goofy, just like trying to be cool and then being like, oh, Mary Poppins, what a surprise. But as they like walked out, just a ton of people like descended on top of them. It was chaos. And they like stopped like directly where I was standing, like in front of me. And then just everyone just barged in front of me.
Right, yeah.
Bert was like, oh, Mary Poppins was waiting. And was trying to be really nice.
Very good.
But like the cast member was not paying attention because they were like instantly afraid of all the people. Right. And they were just not focused. And so Bert kept trying to like get the cast member to like bring me forward because I just kept getting bumped back. Right. And at one point I just went, it's fine, to Bert. I felt like he wasn't focusing on his own meet and greets. People had already started to go up and he was like, Mary. He's just like, I just left it. And then as I went up, they gave me so much time. And then Bert was like, I really hope you're coming to the parade. And I was like, I absolutely am.
Now.
Yeah, I was like, if I wasn't, I was absolutely coming. And at the parade, you could see, like, as soon as he spotted me, he came over, he brought Mary Poppins over, he brought, like, you know that front bit of the parade that everyone is, like, practically brought everyone over. Like, this is Mary Poppins, she's my friend. So,
I'm so sorry.
So good Disney karma, be nice.
Like right behind his eyes. Sorry, so sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, no.
So is there anything else about Orange Pass that you think people should know that we haven't already covered?
I will check my notes and make sure I haven't left anything out. I have seen, depending on the type of illness, if they feel you need a helper, they may not give you a pass. Because I know that sounds really backwards, but if they're being told by your letter that like you have, I don't know, let's say really the example I know is someone said that they had chronic anxiety and that they couldn't deal with crowds and that they constantly needed someone with them in their day-to-day life, but then they were going with a child and they were told, well, you need to be able to get yourself off of a ride, or like if you, so in that
I see what you mean.
Yeah. So they may say you're not allowed on this ride with that pass because in an evacuation situation.
Yeah.
Didn't mean for that to rhyme.
Here we are.
But they like the reason you show your pass at rides as well is not just for priority, but for if anything happens in an emergency where they need to evacuate, they know how many people are on with priority. I know when you were doing your talks about the different attractions and stuff, you often have like max that it's for that. It's for if they needed to evacuate, they know how many people that would need assistance getting off. So if your letter is very much like they cannot cope, you may not be allowed on certain attractions, because unless you have your helper with you. But if you were going on your own and you don't have a helper scenario, a helper has to be from the age of 15 up, they may not let you on certain attractions if they don't think that you would be able to evacuate yourself and your child without a helper.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I was really confused the first time you said it, but now I understand.
Yeah, that's because I phrased it badly the first time. That's on me. No. So yeah, they be cautious of what's being put in your letter and be aware of what they think. And also, like, if they just think your injury, they'll just be like, no. If they just think it's going to aggravate it or upset it. Obviously as well, if the Orange Pass is what's given to expectant mothers as well. So if it's one of the rides with black bars or anything, they're going to be like, no.
In my eyes, expectant mothers just don't ride anything, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. Storyboats.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, love, you can ride those all day long. Yeah.
And they won't get sick on them. There's no dizziness.
No.
For them.
Bloody staircase.
Yeah, I know. It's a fun time. That staircase. It's almost an attraction in itself.
Oh, stop. I am curious because, like, there's been times where me and Kate have been in queues to meet characters where we have been behind people that have been exceptionally rude about the fact that people are getting access to the character either through a green pass or an orange pass, whichever it might be. Have you ever experienced that yourself? Have you ever had other guests be rude?
No, I've been very fortunate. I've always had really, really nice experiences with people. I don't know whether that's because typically I'm on my own, so I don't look like I'm going to take up a lot of time. When I was with my mum, like, she felt very embarrassed a lot of the time, but she did say that was from her own insecurities. It was never due to people giving her looks or anything. No, I have to say I have been very, very fortunate. Even there was I was in the queue to meet Cowgirl Minnie, and I know
we stan
a little McDonald's outfit.
I mean, that outfit is amazing. What a dress. But I decided to queue because I wasn't sure if they would have slots available for her, because they had actually cancelled her meet and greet for a while for the time I was there, and she kept being replaced by Jessie. So I would start to queue, and then Jessie would come out and be like, "Hi, you're not who I was looking for." So because it was one of those pop-up scenarios, and we were told she was going to be there, but there was no cast member to show my pass and say, "Can I get a slot?" I decided to queue just to be safe, and I got chatting to this family. And I explained, like, I normally have a pass, but I don't know how long this queue is going to be. And when the character came out, they were like, do you want to go ask? And if not, you can just jump in front of us. If you're not allowed your slot, we'll save your space here, which was really, really nice. And I actually was allowed a slot, and I didn't want to just, like, leave. So I went back and I was like, hi, I do have a slot. Thanks very much for the chat. I'll see you later. And then when I came back, that family was just after meeting. So it's like I said, it's your virtual spot.
Right, okay.
That family had just finished. And they stayed with me and they were like, we'll take photos for you, because at the time cast members weren't handling phones.
Fair.
So they were like, oh, we'll take your photos for you. And they like waited an extra like 5 minutes with me and like took loads of photos.
That's adorable.
So I have to say I've only had very nice interactions, but I do believe in the good Disney karma.
It's
and I've
so
only
real.
ever been nice to people, you know, who needed it as well.
Yeah.
So I've been fortunate. I do, yeah, it's like you say, I've been in queues where people aren't as nice about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's hard.
It's not a regular thing. I think the worst we experienced was waiting for Chippendale on Halloween. The people in front of us were horribly rude.
Oh my god, they were. I think I couldn't even. I just wanted to hit them all.
Yeah, they were just being so freaking rude.
They were just, and it was worse. Like sometimes you can hear people in front of you and they're speaking a different language, and it's almost better when you don't know what they're saying.
But you know by the tone.
Like you can tell by the tone, you're like, okay, you're mad at something, whatever. But like the people in front of us, I think, were British, and I could like obviously I could understand them, but like, well, it's a stupid thing to say, and I could understand them, but like they were bitching about the most insignificant things, and I was like, it riled me up more because I could hear how rude they were being, and I was like, oh, get a grip of your life.
Yeah,
like it is literally 1 a.m. and you're in Disneyland Paris on Halloween. Get it over yourself.
Yeah. It is hard because I think unless you, and I really hope this doesn't come across rude, but unless you are in a wheelchair, a lot of times people will presume there's nothing wrong with you, and why do you have to pass?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah,
it's very hard, and you know you catch yourself all the time being like, why are they skipping? But like there's so many like invisible illnesses and things. Like I know people who would have the pass for chronic fatigue syndrome or anxiety levels, different things like that, and they even my mum to look at would look well and healthy, unless she's been standing for 4 hours, then she does not. So it's very hard to judge whether people are misusing the system. I'm sure there are. I'm sure like every system in the world, people are taking advantage. I do think though there are quite a lot of restrictions on the pass that they make it quite hard to misuse it, which is a really good point. That like, for example, when I was with my mum, if my mum was not going to meet the character or was going on the ride, I didn't get any priority.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that makes sense.
The card holder has to be with you at all times for you to have the benefit of it. Like there was a time where we went up to meet Minnie Mouse, and her slots had all filled up for the green and orange pass for that day. So I decided to queue because at the time that was the only place you could meet her. And my mum went off to see a show, and then she like sat down and did the art of animation for a while. She did like 10 of those classes on repeat because it was a 2-hour queue. So she just kept doing those classes. And then now I didn't actually get to meet Minnie Mouse because she left for an hour, but it's fine.
Oh god, what a story.
I full on nearly cried, but shout out to the cast member in the Ratatouille restaurant who was like, cheer up, here's cake. I was like, thanks.
Brilliant. Love it.
Thank you.
Like, this is a lovely cake. You were correct. So yeah, if the card holder isn't going to go with you on the ride, or like if the ride is not suitable for them, but you still want to go on it, you just have to queue like a normal person, or like pull out your fast pass or do single rider, whatever you want to do to shorten the queue for yourself. But there's no priority benefit in that case. I think it's slightly easier to manipulate with a meet and greet because obviously you just take your own photo and then they jump in for one, and then
I just remember that one time when we were meeting Spider-Man, and there was a lady in a wheelchair who came up to get the slot, and then later they returned and she went nowhere near Spider-Man, but her two, what I assume, grandkids who were very young fucking pelted up to him, and I was like okay. I was like, whatever.
Like I don't doubt for a second that there is a certain percentage of families that cart along Granny Geraldine purely to avail.
My granny's called Geraldine.
I know, that's how I said it.
Oh. Which, like, if we went, she'd definitely need one, because Lord knows she ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it's similar because like my folks have never been to a Disney park, but they would love to go with my nieces. But like my dad has chronic arthritis, and he absolutely cannot stand for it like that long a period of time. But just to look at my dad, you would think he's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is that thing, and I have also kind of caught myself at times being like, why are they anything? But you can't always see. It's not plastered on people's forehead what is potentially wrong with them, or what is potentially leading them to not be able to queue for however long. So yeah,
and it is like, it's a very discreet system in a way as well, so that I think sometimes doesn't help with, like, there's so many times where I've been talking to people about the holidays and they're like, oh, I'd love to go, but you know, with Jimmy's autism, I don't know, would I manage or cope? And I'm like, but you could get a pass. And so many people actually don't know about the passes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, the amount of times I've met people and they're like, oh, you can get like a pass for that. And I'm like, yeah, like to help with queues and crowd control and things like that. So because it's so discreet in one way, it's brilliant, because obviously it doesn't feel like you're walking around with a big thing being like, oh, I'm straight to the front now because I can't stand for very long.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I know. It was funny
shouting that as you go to meet Donald.
I can't stand. It's very true. I was literally talking to my mum. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go on Mickey Waffles and talk about the Orange Pass. And I was listening last week about you guys talking about the different guests you were gonna have on. It was like, oh, they're gonna come on and talk about Castle Club. They're gonna go on and talk about sparkling experience. And I was like, I can't stand, and I'm gonna tell you about it. It was like my glamorous debut.
But I mean, in fairness, I would argue that Orange Pass is more applicable to most people than the likes of the sparkling experience at Castle Club. So let's be realistic here.
Yeah, but yeah, it's very.
Those are for a very small percentile of people.
We like to bring the reality and then the dream.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, sorry. The point I was trying to make before I just went on a sidetrack is that it's great that it's so discreet, because you don't feel like you've got a big spotlight on you. But I think a lot of people then don't understand why those people have gotten to skip, because they don't know that the pass exists in the first place. The amount of times I've also done like trip reports, or even mentioned on Instagram, you know, oh, I got a time slot and I came back for this character. But they're like, oh, how'd you get that? And I'm like, oh, I have an Orange Pass. And then they're like, oh, great, how do I get one? And I'm like, no, it's not like a fast pass. It's
fall down the stairs. Sorry.
Just for about a week before you're due to go, just throw yourself down the stairs.
Burn your ankle.
Exactly. I think the one thing that they could improve with the pass system is to make a very clear guideline of what warrants a pass and what doesn't warrant a pass. Because I suppose for context, my current reason why I have a pass is I have a shoulder injury. There's something wrong with my AC joint. There's loads of medical jargon that I could go on about. But basically, due to current situations, I still have not been treated. So up until it was only like diagnosed, I could say, between February and March. And I did a trip in February and a trip in March. So there was no time in between to get any sort of treatment for it. And basically it hurts like hell if I stand for a really long period of time, and I get really sad. So
fair.
Because I'm in pain. Like in work, I'm not allowed to do anything. They just make me stand there and smile at people because I'm not allowed to clean or anything.
That bath bomb.
Yeah, I suppose for context, I work in Lush. I should have said that too.
Step away from the butter bars.
Anytime I go to fill like stock, they're just like, my manager just comes and like takes away any whatever task I'm doing and is like, no. So there's so basically it hurts and I'm sad. So I was told to apply for the Orange Pass. I already knew about it from mum. So I got a note from my doctor that basically just said, you know, currently we're unsure of the injury, but it's very painful, blah, 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 blah. And then I took that to City Hall on my first night, and the guy was like, yeah, no problem. I'll get that for you. Turned around and was like, oh, the passes have been taken away. Because it was closing time. So I arrived really late, and they were like, oh, can you come back in the morning? And I was like, literally, yes, because I'm going here anyway, so it's no problem.
Where else am I going to go?
Yeah. I was like, don't worry. And then the following morning, I started my day in studios. So I went into the guest services and studios, gave them my letter, and they were like, oh, no, you don't get a pass for that. And I was kind of like,
I had a feeling that was a issue.
I was gonna get a pass for it last night though. You know, because if they had said, look, you know, we just don't give passes for that sort of injury, I would understand, and I'd be like, fair enough, that's grand. I'll just slow down the pace that I do things at normally. It would have been fine for me because I've been to the parks before. If this was my first time, I would have been a little bit sad because it would have definitely limited what I could get done. But I kind of just said to her, I was like, well, I was going to get a pass last night, but they had just been taken away. So like, I'm a bit confused as to what warrants a pass and what doesn't. And she was like, okay, let me see. And she left the room. And she wasn't very nice. She was a little bit rude. And then she came back out and was like, okay, yeah, look, like we don't, but like, because whoever told you you could have one, I guess I'll make an exception.
She went to her manager. The manager was like, of course she gets one.
She acted like she was doing me the world's biggest favor. She actually stamped, I have a different orange pass for that's actually stamped with the word exception as well. So I guess they do have exceptions for something. This one has no exception.
Wagon.
I don't she was not having a good morning, because then when she wrote the pass, she was like, oh Jesus, is the weather lovely? And I was like, this is a real turnaround. I'm very confused.
Are you okay, ma'am?
I feel like 9 o'clock hit and she woke up and she was like, oh, great. So it's just...
Sounds like Kate.
That's true.
But yeah, just be aware that, you know, there's not clear guidelines for them. Or maybe there is, like you say, and she wasn't sure. And then her manager was like, obviously. So
it's like, what, she can't stand? Oh, no, of course. She just waits it out.
So that it would be nice if there was like a clearer guideline that you could look, you know, maybe before your trip and see, you know, if you think it would be worth planning. Yeah,
because obviously, like especially if you're coming from Ireland, like you have to pay anywhere between 45 and 60 euro for a doctor's visit to go get a note.
Yeah.
So if your injury wouldn't warrant a note, then you've just wasted like potentially 60 euro.
Yeah. Very true.
See, that's the thing as well, because when we went at Halloween, Ellen had the injury on her knee, my sister, and her knee was really swollen, and it's like we're only starting to get it fixed now, but like it was quite painful for her to walk. And before we went, I was like, do you want to look at getting a pass? Because like she, like even when she was there, she found it difficult to walk, but she just sort of like powered through. But I was like, I don't know if this is making this worse, or I was like, you probably shouldn't be. But like, she was like, no, I probably wouldn't get one. Like, it's probably not worth it. She was like, I don't like it. I don't, because like, I don't actually think it's an injury. She was like, I think it's just, I was like, you can't walk on it. But like, that was the thing. Like, she didn't want to go and try and get a doctor. She was like, it's like lying. Like, I don't like it and that kind of stuff. And I was like, again, I think can't walk.
Down to the Irish guilt that we have, that we're just like, no, because I wasn't going to apply for one at all. But I was in physiotherapy, and the initial flare up, I will say, came from the parks, because I had done so much walking with it. Like in 2019 I went for 6 days, and like I did an insane amount of walking, and it really started to hurt on the last day. It's an illness, not an illness, it's an injury that's like underlying. It's been there for a while, but that really, really like did it some damage. And when I came back, I went to my doctor about it. So I've been going through like doctor's visits for like the best part of a year, nearly a year and a half now. And I had been doing a course of physiotherapy to try and strengthen it. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Disney, you know, when you're making general chit chat. And she was like, are you? And I was like, yeah, like I'm going again in February. And she was like, do you not remember how last February you caused this? And I was like, oh yeah, but like it'll be fine. And she was like, no, it won't, because we've just strengthened it. You're going to do a load of walking and you're going to like just bring it back to day one. She actually said to me, she was like, if you go to Disney, I'm not going to see you again.
Oh my god.
She was like, because you've just done all the work. And she was like, is there, like, there has to be a pass system? And I was like, oh, there is, yeah, but like, I mean, I wouldn't get it. And she was like, well, apply, because otherwise I'm not
oh my god.
Keep
that is a good physiotherapist.
Yeah, she
yeah. But like, I remember hearing someone describe it like it is not meant for just people that are like permanently or extremely unable to do things or disabled or whatever it is. it's meant to give you a level playing field with fully able-bodied people. Like, it is just supposed to make it as even as possible so that everybody can get as much enjoyment out of the parks. And if it's a case that you need to be given a slot so that you can potentially go sit down somewhere and still wait your 40 minutes, but just not wait your 40 minutes vertically, then it's just to ensure that everybody has as good a time as possible. Like, it's not just meant to make life exponentially easier for this group of people versus this group of people, because that's not what it's about.
Yeah, like, it's not like I was waiting for my slot to meet Baloo and I was off on Big Thunder Mountain being like, haha, fool them. You know, I was probably sitting down having a crepe or something, you know. There was no shady business, but exactly, it's just to even it out that, like, you can still get the same level of enjoyment in the parks. Like, it definitely, like, for me it was great to have the pass so that I could, like, literally just sit and rest. For my mum, it was great because she just felt like she wasn't holding me back. Like, she was still able to, like, go and see everything that, like, we got everything we wanted to do. Initially it was a once in a lifetime trip, and then I got really excited about it.
Yeah, that happens, isn't it?
Got an annual pass. So
it's funny how that just sort of, like, one day, like, you're like, oh my god,
whoops, I have an AB.
Oh my god, like, it was,
that's literally how it happened for Kate, though. Like,
I was like, well, here I am.
I Kate crashed Kate's family holiday and then was like, hey Kate, you know what you should do? You should get yourself an annual pass. And she was like, well, now I have an infinity pass.
I mean, and that was, exactly. Like, it was great. I suppose for me, with the 2 times that I've needed a pass, I've also had the 2 times that I've needed the easy access card, I've also had my infinity pass. So I've had the viewing areas for the parades and illuminations. So I suppose that was great for me as well, because I also wasn't, like, standing for long times to see them. That's the one thing my mum really struggled with. And I do think now that I, like, when I was talking to her about this, I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense, because if they know you can't stand for an hour in a queue, why would you stand for an hour waiting for a parade? And not have, like, a bench or a seat nearby or something. Now, I know there are, like, benches around the parks, but obviously if you can get one, you know, like, that's not a given. So if they could bring in something that, like, even the card holder and one person maybe could go, obviously I know their disability area is very small for the viewing area for parades and stuff. So I suppose they would have to kind of maybe make a new one or something. But if they could bring in something like that, because I know that illuminations in particular, because it's night and it's cold as well.
Yeah. I know you're saying at the very beginning of the call, sorry, just while we're talking about that, literally that, at the beginning of the call, you were saying that when you were supposed to go over, when you were going over, your mom was supposed to get a green card, but she ended up getting an orange card. What happened in between that made Disney decide that she wasn't priority enough?
She wasn't disabled enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but I was like, maybe not.
It's probably not politically correct. No. It was purely down to the fact that she's not got a blue badge. So my mum is on disability allowance here in Ireland, but she doesn't have a badge for, like, parking or anything. She doesn't have that
the little placard thing.
The little placard, yeah, exactly. And that's what you need to show that you've proof. So when we were going, we brought a doctor's letter and we brought proof of receiving disability welfare. And they just said that they could only accept the blue badge sort of system, but that they would give us the orange card. I didn't know the orange card even existed at this point. I'd only read about a green pass.
Right, okay.
So when they were like, no, you don't qualify, I was a bit like, oh no.
Shit.
I was like, my poor mommy. I'm just trying to draw all the way, being like, don't worry, it's fine. We're going to get one of these cool passes. And then she's going to have to, like, walk everywhere. And then he came back and he was like, so you're going to get this one. It's basically pretty much the same, except it's a virtual queue system. So, like, you're not just going constantly. You just have to
Yeah.
take one at a time.
Okay.
So that would be why we just didn't have the correct documentation, just because she doesn't have it anyway. Like if we were going, it's not like we had forgotten it or anything.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just doesn't have that that card over here in Ireland. So
Okay.
that would be why. I don't know why actually. I asked her about that recently. I was like, should you have that? And she was like, probably. I should look into that.
Yeah, because I think you just have to apply for it and then it gets sent to the post.
Yeah, but she's also too Irish to use the parking spots.
I keep telling my dad to do that as well, because again, my dad has had
Yeah.
chronic arthritis for most of my life, and he keeps being like, "Oh, but I'm really good at getting parking really close anyway." I don't need that. And I'm like,
Yeah. My mum is like,
and I'm
no,
like, you don't have to use it every time.
Yeah.
But on the off chance that you can't get your really good parking space.
Yeah.
It's like talking to a girl.
Oh, I'm the exact same. So yeah, she hasn't looked into that. She also views it as a jinx. Like she thinks if she gets it, she'll have to use it more. So she's like, no, while I'm fit and able.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
She's like, no,
Fair.
I'm gonna power through until I physically can't move.
Because my granny has
Makes
one,
sense.
even though she can't drive. So like my granddad drives her everywhere, but they have one for her because she can't.
Yes.
Like she needs it. Like she can't get. Like if she goes to Tesco, she
Yeah,
has to be
Just
right
'cause-
next to the
just
door.
'cause she's not driving doesn't mean she
Yeah,
can walk
yeah.
the 10 miles of the Tesco car.
Yeah.
But the day it came through the post, you'd swear she'd gotten like a golden ticket. She was like, Leslie, we can go to Tesco.
Aww.
And then once they forgot it, and she was like, Leslie, what have you done? You've
This has
forgotten
ruined
it.
my day.
Oh, bless her.
Oh dear.
Sorry, it was a complete side note. But
No, not at all.
So that's what we're all about, Kate. So
I don't have any other questions. Have you any other questions, Kate?
no, I think we pretty much covered everything. Like literally, I think everything I wrote down, I think we've covered so much that even
We should do,
If-
because I made a very specific notes to
like even if you've been listening to this and you don't currently need any of these passes, I feel like this was still quite interesting to learn about.
Mhm.
And just because I always find, especially what you just specifically talked about, Sam, like the whole secrecy of it, I feel that like just making people more aware of like the passes, because like you said, like if you're in a queue and there's this person, like I remember the first couple of times I went, it took me ages to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sure there's a reason, and I'm sure there's a very reasonable reason why these people are getting this, but why?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I think like my third trip that I was like, right, okay, because I think like it's so bad, but it took I think someone coming up in a wheelchair
Yeah,
to come, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
And I think just people being aware of why it's happening, because even when the cast member comes up to you in the regular standby queue, if you will, and is like, we're just going to allow this family to go first, they don't come up to you and be like, hey, we have a disabled person here that needs to go before you because they can't stand for more than 10, like it's not broadcast to the world.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important, just also in general with disabilities, to like talk about them.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no, I think we did really well. Thanks, Sam.
No worries.
thanks
Thanks
for
for having me on. Thanks.
Anytime.
Thanks for calling in all the way from Cork.
No worries.
Yes. So as you said, as Sinead said at the beginning, we'll definitely share Sam's Instagram handle. If you guys have any other questions, I'm sure she'd be happy to help.
Always.
Sam is extremely active on her Instagram, more active than we even are, and that's, well, imagine that.
Love
So-
my Instagram.
Definitely go give Sam a follow on Instagram. There's no point in saying her tag out because you'll probably miss the dots.
I'll get it wrong again.
Yeah, so we'll put it in the show notes.
I try.
And even if you go to our Instagram page, we follow her, so you can look it up there.
You'll find her easy enough.
I do regret taking that name. If I'd have known when I was, if I'd have known
When you were
the
going to become,
promotion I'd be getting on Mickey Waffles.
you were
Made
like,
an easier name for you.
now I'm podcast famous and I made the world cry with my Instagram name. It's
No one
just-
can say it.
And I just presumed that if you didn't put in the dots, it would just come up anyway, but it doesn't.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
God.
because sometimes if someone, like if I'm talking to people just generally and they're like, I'm like, oh, I've got a Disney Instagram, they're like, oh, let me follow it, and I'm like, oh, cool, it's the girl in the castle, and they can never find me.
Never
I'm like,
find it.
Oh, you gotta put in these
The
dots.
Dot,
Sorry.
girl.
Dot.
Dot.
No.
in the dot what?
Oh,
Exactly.
if I'd have
But
known.
yeah,
Thanks very much for listening, everybody. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, please do let us know. Pop us over a little DM on Insta.
Yeah, and if I don't know when this podcast is going to go out, if it goes out before Friday, we're doing another Mickey Waffles quiz. And if not, we had a great Mickey's Waffles quiz on Fridays, guys. Where were you? You should have been there.
And they were more jammies.
I won.
If you were on,
I won. It was great.
You're going to take down Andrea finally.
Oh, it was fab. Got a crown. Brilliant.
You know,
Great
to get a crown. Yes, so, and again, if you guys miss it, I'm still doing the quizzes up on Mickey Waffles Wednesday. Sometimes they're up on Friday because I don't know what day of the week it is.
It's Wednesday tomorrow, Kate.
I'll be there. I'll be on the Instas sticking them up. But yeah, as always, thanks so much for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. If you want to be on the podcast, let us know. If you have something exciting to talk about, please come on, share your experiences. Yeah. We love it.
Absolutely. And I think that's everything.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks so much for listening, guys. Appreciate it as always. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.